Welcome to FNS 2020-21 Food and Nutrition Civil Rights Training. My name is Waldo Rodriguez, and I am a field supervisor for BISD Food and Nutrition Services Department. Today, we will be viewing a mandatory civil rights video that is a requirement from TDA before you start your regular school year. This video is about 1 hour long and is available in English or in Spanish. After viewing the video in its entirety, please follow instructions given to earn the full credit needed to start the new school year. Again, welcome back and enjoy the video. Let's begin.
To increase the understanding of the following civil rights topics and to eliminate the instance of civil rights violations, we will discuss and review the following topics. Explain USDA protected bases. Describe methods of assisting people with limited English proficiency. Describe reasonable accommodations for people with disabilities. Describe the public notification system purpose. Explain complaint filing procedures and process. Describe good customer service standards. Identify when to use conflict resolution. Collect and maintain appropriate data. Compliance review questions. And identify the need to resolve non-compliance.
Next.
Welcome to the Civil Rights Training. You will need to complete all the objectives and achieve an 80% on the quiz to complete this training. Once you have completed all the objectives, the Take Quiz button will appear at the bottom of the screen. You will be able to retake it if necessary. Click on Unit 1 to start this training.
Unit 1, USDA Authority.
Welcome to Unit 1. In this section we will be covering the following subjects: legislation, training, protected bases, and discrimination and unlawful discrimination. Click on the next button to start this unit.
Next.
Civil rights laws were enacted to address certain basic inequities in the legal, political, and social systems of our nation. These laws clarify the ways in which civil rights violations occur, and spell out the penalties and sanctions for violations. The U.S. Congress passed numerous pieces of legislation to prohibit discrimination based on race, color, national origin, sex, disability and age. These categories are known as protected bases. USDA implements these civil rights laws in its administration of child nutrition and food distribution programs. These civil rights requirements apply to TDA, its contracting entities, and programs receiving partial or fully funding. Click on each legislative act to hear a brief but important description of it. You must visit each legislative act to proceed with this training. Links to all of these authorities are provided in the Resources tab above. The USDA rules apply to the Texas Department of Agriculture, TDA, its contracting entities, and to all programs and activities that are partially or federally funded. All programs are administered by the USDA FNS.
Next.
What is discrimination? Discrimination is defined as the treatment or consideration of, or making a distinction in favor or against, a person based on the group, class, or category to which the person belongs. Discrimination may be either intentional, by neglect, or by the actions or lack of actions based on membership in one of the protected groups. Discrimination involves treating others differently. This could happen intentionally or unintentionally, by neglect, actions or lack of actions. Here are some examples of discrimination. Delaying benefits or services to a person or group of persons based on one or more of the 6 protected classes. Denying benefits or services to a person or group of persons based on one or more of the 6 protected classes. Disparate treatment of a person or group of persons based on one or more of the 6 protected classes. Disparate treatment involves the inconsistent application of policies or rules. An example would be serving larger portions of food to boys than girls of the same age.
Next.
Just a key point to remember: unlawful discrimination in any form is strictly prohibited and can be intentional or unintentional.
Next.
Here are some examples of unlawful discrimination. Closing programs in areas easily accessible by all groups. For example, for budget reasons, it is necessary to close a service location and you choose a location that is easily accessible by all program participants while keeping a location that is not easily accessible by some program participants. This would include participants who use public transportation, live far away from the location that will stay open. Giving one group or type of participants larger or extra helpings of food while not providing the same to other groups or types of participants, such as serving boys larger portions than the girls. Separating genders by putting the girls separate from the boys or giving boys larger portion sizes than girls. Failing to provide meal substitutions for participants with a disability that restricts their diet. Please see your program handbook to determine if this example applies to you and for additional information about providing meals to persons with special needs. Failing to provide meaningful access to a non-English speaker. For example, not providing program information in a language specific to the population of the service area, for example Spanish or Vietnamese.
Next.
Working with one or more USDA nutrition program, we are all responsible for ensuring that everyone has equal access to the programs. Federal law prohibits discrimination in the programs based on the USDA protected bases shown. All nutrition assistance programs and activities that receive federal funding are protected and subject to civil rights oversight. In the United States Department of Agriculture, USDA, nutrition programs administered by Texas Department of Agriculture, TDA, there are 6 bases protected against discrimination. A protected base refers to any person or group of people who have characteristics for which discrimination is prohibited based on law, regulation, or executive order. Protected bases in the USDA nutrition assistance programs administered by TDA are race, color, national origin, sex, age, and disability. CEs must strictly adhere to the provisions of the civil rights laws and regulations contained and described in their program handbook. This training is a general overview regarding civil rights within F&N programs. To learn more about discrimination as it pertains to each of the protected bases, click on the image for each protected class. You cannot proceed with the training until you have visited each protected class.
Disability.
Disability discrimination is the unequal treatment of an individual based on that individual's real or perceived disability.
National origin.
National origin discrimination is the unfair treatment or bias against someone or a group of people because they appear to be from a particular country or part of the world, ethnicity or accent, or they appear to be of a certain ethnic background.
Color.
Color discrimination is the unfair or unequal treatment or bias of an individual or group of persons based on the social meanings attached to skin color.
Sex.
Sex discrimination is the unequal treatment on the basis of sex, gender. The treatment must not simply be different, but also unequal, and therefore unfair.
Age.
Age discrimination is the unfair treatment on the basis of age of the recipient.
Race.
Race discrimination is the unfair treatment or bias against someone or a group of people based on their race. USDA racial categories include American Indian or Alaska Native, Asian, Black or African American, Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, white, including Hispanic/Latino.
Next.
Now it's your turn to test your knowledge. Place all protected classes into the box on the left and all other classes into the box on the right. You must use all 12 images prior to clicking on the yellow Submit button. Good luck.
Let's begin. Political affiliation, not protected. Veteran status, not protected. National origin, protected. Color, protected. Genetic information, not protected. Religion, not protected. Disability, protected. Sexual orientation, not protected. Race, protected. Age, protected. Sex, protected. Gender identity, not protected. Submit, and that is correct. Continue.
Awareness of civil rights and penalties for violations starts with training. Training is required for members involved in all levels of administration of programs that receive federal financial assistance. Members must understand civil rights-related laws, regulations, procedures, and directives. Civil rights training must be completed before they begin any program duties and again annually. The annual training will help you understand civil rights, how to take responsibility, and how to avoid violations. Specific subject matter must include, but not be limited to, collection and use of data, effective public notification systems, complaint procedures, compliance review techniques, resolution of non-compliance, requirements for reasonable accommodation of persons with disabilities, requirements for language assistance, conflict resolution, and customer service. Proof of training is provided in the form of an email upon successful completion of the course. In Unit 1, we discuss the following. 1. The purpose behind legislation within civil rights. 2. Discrimination and the different examples of discrimination as well as unlawful discrimination, intentional or unintentional. 3. The 6 protected bases. 4. The training requirements if funded by the USDA. This completes Unit 1. Click the next button to continue with your training.
Next. Unit 2, Civil Rights Elements.
This section identifies different civil rights elements that CEs must understand in order to successfully operate the federally funded nutrition program. First, accommodating limited English proficiency individuals. Next, defining disabilities and reasonable accommodations. Third, what personal data we collect and why it is collected. Lastly, the need for public notification. Click the next button to begin.
Next.
In this section, we will be covering topics related to limited English proficiency, LEP. Click on each topic to hear more information on each subject. You will need to visit each topics prior to proceeding with this training.
LEP definition.
First, let's define LEP. People who do not speak English as their primary language and who have a limited ability to read, speak, write, or understand English.
Protected by national origin.
Persons with LEP are protected under the national origin basis of Title VI and its implementing regulations.
Back. Elements of an effective LEP.
Here are some elements of an effective LEP policy that CEs should consider. Identify LEP persons who need language assistance. Identify ways in which language assistance will be provided. Train staff. Provide notice to LEP persons. And monitor and update LEP policy.
Back. Language assistance services.
As mentioned earlier, reasonable steps must be taken to ensure meaningful access to the information and services provided for people with LEP. Here are some examples of the language assistance services that CEs may consider. Oral interpretation services, bilingual staff, telephone interpreter lines, written language services, and community volunteers.
Back. Next.
Another element you need to understand is providing for reasonable accommodation for disabled persons. Let's start with the definition of a disability. A person with a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities. A person who has a record of such an impairment. And a person who is regarded as having such an impairment. Click on the 2 items below to learn more about the terms substantially limits and major life activities.
Substantially limits.
USDA provides the following guidance on substantial limits. Need not prevent or severely or significantly restrict a major life activity. Individualized assessment. without considering actions taken to address the disability, such as walking devices, medication, office accommodations, or other supportive measures. May include a disability that is irregular, and if in remission, it would substantially limit a major life activity when active.
Back. Major life activities.
Major life activities means functions such as caring for oneself, performing manual tasks, walking, seeing, hearing, speaking, breathing, learning and working.
Back. Next.
Here are some examples of reasonable accommodations. A standing desk for someone with a damaged back. Modified lighting for someone with chronic eyesight or migraine issues. A qualified sign language interpreter for persons with hearing disabilities. Note: reasonable accommodations may need to be supported by a medical statement. Also, CEs are encouraged to contact their local ESC or TDA if they need assistance determining the most effective way to provide a reasonable accommodation. Before denying a reasonable accommodation request, CEs are strongly encouraged to consult with TDA.
Next.
The central concern for CEs is ensuring equal opportunity to participants when accommodating individuals with disabilities. CEs are required to make substitutions to meals for participants with a disability that restricts their diet. This substitution is done on a case-by-case basis and when supported by a medical statement written by a licensed physician or state-recognized medical authority. CEs are not required to provide the exact substitution or other modification requested by the parent or guardian. However, the CE must work with the parent or guardian of the child to offer a reasonable modification that effectively accommodates the child's disability. For example, if a child has a peanut allergy, no food served to the child should contain peanuts or include peanuts as an ingredient. Another example would be changing the texture of the food for someone with chewing or swallowing issues. More information on diet modification can be found in the program handbooks, National School Lunch Program, School Breakfast Program, Child and Adult Care Food Program, and Summer Food Service Program, located on the TDA Square Meals site.
Next.
CEs and other subrecipients must provide and maintain a system to collect the racial and ethnic data in accordance with USDA policy. This data will be used to determine how effectively USDA programs are reaching potentially eligible persons and beneficiaries, identify areas where additional outreach is needed, assist in the selection of locations for compliance reviews, and complete reports as required.
Next.
CEs must have a public notification system to inform applicants, participants, and potentially eligible person of the program availability, program rights and responsibilities, the policy of non-discrimination, and the procedure for filing a complaint. CEs must make program information available to the public upon request and be able to provide informational materials related to the program in languages other than English, if the need exists. Click on each topic to learn more about the subject listed.
Program availability.
TDA, CEs or other subrecipient that distributes program benefits and services must take specific action to inform applicants, participants, and potentially eligible persons of their program rights and responsibilities and the steps necessary for participation.
Back. Complaint information.
Applicants and participants must be advised at the service delivery point of their right to file a complaint, how to file a complaint, and the complaint procedures.
Back. And Justice for All poster.
The Injustice for All poster is the primary method utilized to inform customers of their rights that displays information relevant to assisted programs. Contracting entities and each contracted site must prominently display the Injustice for All in a place where it may be read by customers. For information on displaying the poster, click on the link for your program. You can also visit www.squaremeals.org under Other Programs for more information on other programs. For information on guidance and translations, click on the USDA link. All Injustice for All posters must be displayed in a specific size, 11 inches width by 17 inches height.
Back. Non-discrimination statement.
All information materials and sources, including websites, used by USDA, TDA, CEs, or other subrecipients to inform the public about USDA programs must contain a non-discrimination statement. If the material is too small to permit the full statement to be included, the material must, at a minimum, include the following statement and be in print no smaller than the text of the document. This institution is an equal opportunity provider. It is not required that the non-discrimination statement be included on every page of the program information website. At the minimum, the non-discrimination statement, or a link to it, must be included on the home page of the program information.
Back. Next.
When CEs have to obtain individual eligibility information, they can obtain child-specific eligibility status from another CE, like a school or child care center, to expedite the certification process. A CE must protect the confidentiality of any information that has been provided by a household, or received from another CE for determining eligibility for free, reduced price, or paid meals. The CE may only use the information to determine eligibility and must not release any information that contains a participant's name or other individual information. Here is an example. The individual responsible for documenting the eligibility of a site would have a clear need to access eligibility information, while an individual serving meals or conducting recreation programs would not.
Next.
In Section 2 we talked about the following: limited English proficiency, LEP, and how language must not be a barrier to receiving benefits of the USDA's nutrition programs. We also defined disability and provided guidance on what substantially limits and major life activities means. We explained why data collection is a very important step, and the requirement and purpose of including a public notification system. This completes the training for Section 2.
Next. Unit 3, Civil Rights Toolbox.
Welcome to Unit 3. In this objective, we will be discussing the following topics: ensure compliance, customer service, conflict resolution, and civil rights complaints. Click the next button to start this training. Compliance reviews help ensure that civil rights requirements are fulfilled at all levels of program administration. TDA determines CE compliance with civil rights regulations prior to application approval and during administrative and monitoring reviews of CEs and sites. In addition, reviews are also conducted on an ongoing basis for all USDA-funded programs. And lastly, special compliance reviews are conducted when an issue has been identified and may be scheduled or unscheduled. TDA determines CE compliance prior to application approvals and during compliance reviews. Some of the review questions that a CE might be asked include, but not limited to: is the Injustice for All poster prominently displayed at each site as required? Is the non-discrimination statement used as required? Do graphic materials reflect inclusiveness based on race, color, national origin, sex, age, and disability? Does the CE have written grievance procedures for addressing and processing complaints? And has civil rights training been conducted as required for all staff, volunteers, etc.? Here are some of the more frequent findings during compliance reviews. The Injustice for All poster is not visible where participants and the public can see and read it. The non-discrimination statement is missing from the public documents. Complaint forms are not accessible to staff at each site, or staff is not trained and do not recognize a complaint when asked, or they are unable to explain the complaint procedure to the reviewer. Lastly, if non-compliance is determined during a review, a corrective action plan will be developed. Select all the correct statements pertaining to compliance reviews. More than one answer may be required. Good luck.
Special reviews are conducted when an issue has been identified. Reviews are conducted on an ongoing basis for all USDA FNS programs. Compliance reviews help ensure that civil rights requirements are fulfilled only at the lower levels of the program administration. TDA determines CE compliance with civil rights regulations prior to application, approval, and during administrative and monitoring reviews. Special reviews are conducted. Reviews are conducted on an ongoing basis. TDA determines compliance. Submit.
Great job. You selected the correct responses.
Let's continue.
In no way is a customer's right to file a civil rights complaint to be obstructed. However, many complaints may be prevented or mitigated with good customer service. To ensure customer service delivery is the best possible, understanding best practices regarding customer service and ensuring they are applied consistently and equitably is essential. Customer service is effectively communicating with customers, responding to their needs, valuing their worth, and instilling excellence through courtesy, confidence and enthusiasm. Applicants, participants and the public are customers. Anyone dealing directly with customers occupies a position of trust with respect and dignity as the foundations of building and maintaining trust and excellent customer service. Why is customer service important to you? Treating customers with respect and dignity through excellent customer service saves you time and minimizes opportunities for complaints and angry customers, as well as saves your organization money and staff resources. To ensure you provide excellent customer service, some best practices include treating all customers with respect and dignity, exercising good listening skills by being attentive to the customers and their needs, learning to identify with the customer when necessary, responding to questions in a non-threatening manner, ensuring your voice and tone are calm and clear, communicating rules as well as client rights and responsibilities clearly and precisely, recognizing and appreciating that customers have many varied needs and few resources. Lastly, recognizing when a person feels they have been treated in a rude or disrespectful manner. Select all statements that are true when it comes to good customer service. Select all that apply.
Exercising good talking skills. Recognizing when a customer demeanor changes and when you can treat them in a rude or discourteous manner. Recognize and appreciating that the customer have many varied needs and few resources. Respond to questions in non-threatening manner, ensuring your voice and tone are calm and clear. You should treat all customers with respect and dignity. Recognizing and appreciating the customer. Respond to the questions in a non-threatening manner, and you should treat all customers with respect. Submit.
That's right. You selected the correct responses.
Let's continue.
As a professional, you must respond in a professional manner regardless of the customer's behavior. No matter what happens, try these techniques to enhance your customer service. Avoid interrupting the customer. Be patient and give the customer the opportunity to explain the issue. Be understanding. Of all the communication situations you encounter, angry customers require the most empathy. Remember, don't be judgmental. Talk calmly and slowly, in a calm voice and low tone. This should help relax the customer and allow you to address the facts, not cater to emotions. Apologize. Even if the problem is not the fault of your organization or staff and clearly not your fault, apologize to the customer for his or her inconvenience. Identify the problem based on the information the customer gives you. Then determine a solution. Depending on the specifics of the conversation and your knowledge, the solution may involve contacting the customer again. Then personally follow up with the customer to make sure that the customer has been satisfied and the issue is resolved.
Next.
No matter what happens, when providing excellent customer service, it is best to avoid the following. Placing a complaint caller on hold or leaving a complainant waiting without offering assistance or an updates. Totally ignoring a complainant while they talk themselves out and calm down. Hastily and or unnecessarily passing a complainant to a coworker. If at all possible, actively listen to the customer and assist with their concern or issue. Only pass the customer to someone else when you have exhausted all available resources at your disposal. Lastly, stating to the complainant, "Sorry, it's not my job." Once again, as we have discussed in the previous slides, customer service is effectively communicating with customers, responding to their needs, valuing their worth, and instilling excellence through courtesy, confidence and enthusiasm.
As we mentioned earlier, a participant's right to file a civil rights complaint must not be impeded. However, many conflicts are easily resolved by using appropriate techniques. Conflict resolution consists of very useful techniques to assist with the solution of the complaints. The Conflict Resolution Network identified skills used in successful conflict resolution. A link to their website is provided under the resources at the top right of this video player. Using a win-win approach is about changing the conflict from an adversarial attack and defense to cooperation. It is this powerful shift of attitude that alters the course of communication. Using a creative response is about turning problems into possibilities. It is about consciously choosing to see what can be done, rather than focusing on the perceived problem. It is affirming that you will choose to extract the best from the situation. Demonstrating empathy is about rapport and openness between people. When it is absent, people are less likely to consider needs and feelings. The best way to build empathy is to help the others feel that they are understood. That means being an active listener. When employing appropriate assertiveness, you should be able to state your case without disturbing the defenses of the other person. The secret of success lies in saying how it is for you rather than what they should or shouldn't do. For example, the way I see it, attached to your assertive statement, helps. A skilled I statement goes even further. Cooperative power is being faced with a statement that has potential to create conflict, then asking open-ended questions to refrain resistance. Explore the difficulties and then redirect the discussion to focus on positive possibilities. Remember that managing emotions is internal as well as external. It is vital to manage your own emotions, sticking strictly to the facts of the complaint, and not invoking negative emotional reactions from the complainant. The secret is to start by supporting their real needs without supporting their destructive beliefs, and alienating patterns of reaction. Lastly, a willingness to resolve the conflict is essential by both parties. Assessing each person's willingness to resolve, identifying barriers to a resolution and overcoming the barriers will continue the resolution process. Again, employing some or all of these techniques should lead to an effective conflict resolution. It is unlawful to treat a customer differently if they have filed a civil rights complaint or participated in an investigation. Should the complainant persist with their complaint with USDA's Office of the Assistant Secretary Civil Rights, retaliation is unacceptable and against the law. A link to their website is provided under the resources at the top right of this video player.
Despite providing excellent customer service, there will be customers with civil rights complaints. All complaints must be handled professionally and efficiently following CE procedures and meeting timeframes set by USDA and/or TVA. Civil rights complaints, covering the protected bases, must be reported to USDA and courtesy copied to TVA within 5 days of receipt. CEs are required to have procedures in place to move the complaint into the appropriate process for handling civil rights complaints. CEs are not authorized to process a civil rights complaint. All associated staff must be able to provide written documentation regarding complaint procedures and an explanation of the complaint process. Additional information regarding appropriate handling of a civil rights complaint is outlined within your program handbook. A person alleging discrimination has the right to file their complaint within 180 days of the alleged action. Complaints must be received and must be accepted either in writing or verbally and must be processed to USDA, FNS and TVA within established timelines as outlined in your program handbook. All complaints must be kept confidential and the resolution of complaints is always encouraged at the lowest possible level. As a reminder, more information on handling complaints can be found under the Resources tab.
Next.
Whenever a discrimination-based complaint on one of the 6 protected bases is forwarded to the USDA, it should include the following: names, titles, and addresses of anyone who has knowledge of alleged incident or action. Dates when alleged incident or action occurred and basis of alleged discrimination. Must be forwarded to USDA within 5 days of receipt. Complaint form is available online. As a reminder, more information on handling complaints can be found under the Resources tab. Here are some points to remember when handling a civil rights complaint. If a person says their civil rights are being affected, the complaint must be treated as a civil rights complaint. The person may not use the term civil rights or protected bases, so it is important to listen to what they are telling you to determine if their civil rights may be affected. Civil rights may be affected if the complainant says that they have been denied program benefits unfairly, delayed program benefits unfairly, treated differently. This could involve a policy or practice that has an adverse impact or any form of intimidation or retaliation. Given disparate treatment. This could involve a policy or practice which is not discriminatory, but has a discriminatory impact in practice.
In Section 3 we talked about the following: compliance reviews, frequently asked questions during a review, and mentioned some of the most common findings. We also mentioned about corrective action plans for non-compliance. We also covered customer service and some best practices to keep in mind when working with customers and why it is important to always be professional when interacting with customers. Next, we shared some concepts to assist you with conflict resolution and how to make it a win-win answer. Lastly, understanding civil rights complaints and what is required when a complaint has been filed. This completes the training for Section 3.
Next. Thank you. This is the conclusion of our civil rights training video. Please follow instructions given by FNS administration to receive your certificate of completion.